I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Hello, friends. The defender Marina Plashea surprised her husband by visiting his position on the Donetsk front, where she showed up with all her combat gear, but when he arrives, he doesn't recognize her. She tells him there's a drone up there and asks her darling to give her a second. She complains to him that she's been waiting for him with all that gear on, and he's still in shock. A moment of joy at the front for one of Ukraine's tough defenders, who upon meeting his wife transforms once again into a gentle husband. I hope both of them can enjoy a long and happy life together. This is a bit more somber. A group of Ukrainian soldiers is surrounded by the invaders, and they record what they believe will be their last message. Brothers, our last battle is the most important one. We hit them hard, to be honest. It makes me want to cry. It's okay, we'll live if we don't die. All-around defense. We have the invaders on all sides. 4 warriors, 5. We massacred the Russian elite yesterday. Today too. We will resist until the end. I have more than 1,000 bullets. Ukrainians, watch this video. Remember who is resisting here and how we are resisting. I will show you my last position. Today is November 1st. I love you all very much, my dears.
I love you all very much.
What a beautiful, beautiful day. On that side, our guys were cut off, and the invaders are there, firing with everything they've got. They just bombarded us with grads, grenade launchers. The infantry is advancing. All day for 2 days in a row. We are in Zhurivka. If you know where it is, Pavlivka has already been taken. The 72nd Brigade has already withdrawn. Our flank is exposed. They're bombing us mercilessly. I don't know what to tell you. Value every day you have. Even so, we endure. No rotation, no days off, 20 days, a month.
No rotation, days per month.
20 days, 22 days. Right now, all the more so, we don't have people to replace us.
Right now.
Our company was destroyed. Everyone is either dead or wounded. I don't know how we're holding out here, but we're holding out. I don't want to cause panic or tears. We're patriots. We're legends. We're going through 15 boxes a day.
Firing!
We're firing boxes per day.
Firing boxes a day.
Tanks? Yes, now tanks too. Tanks? Tanks. This is our main gunner who's blinding the invaders. He's ours. They're bastards. In case you're wondering what happened, yes, they managed to survive. Because even though they were surrounded, they received support from another unit, which allowed them to withdraw the next day. They posted a video on Facebook shortly after, confirming that they had managed to escape and everyone was safe. This experience shows us not only the courage of the defenders, but also their determination to keep fighting even when everything was against them. Also, the fact that they had a large amount of ammunition allowed them to keep repelling the attacks. This happened in 2022. The mentality of continuing to fight despite everything has not changed. But now the defenders have artillery parity and superiority in unmanned systems, which is being felt more and more every day on the robotic battlefield of Donetsk. The first Unmanned Systems Center released footage on April 17 of the destruction of another Panzer S-1 anti-aircraft battery, this time in the outskirts of Mariupol, which was installed in an elevated position to protect the city. Too bad it couldn't even protect itself. The Panzer S-1 combines cannons and missiles to provide short-range point defense, which makes it a priority target in the campaign that the defenders are carrying out against the air defenses of the Z-Horde in the occupied areas. But it wasn't the last one. That's because the day before, the same center deputinized another Panzer in Mariupol, which was also installed on a specially built berm to give it a better field of fire. This is significant because the destruction of the Panzers is generally the first step in a systematic attack campaign in that sector of the front. Now, related to that same thing, on April 16th, the 1st Azov Army Corps released an official video indicating that it has established surveillance and sustained fire control over all the main logistical routes of the Horde around the occupied city of Donetsk. Let's remember that these routes are more than 50 kilometers from the current front line in areas that, until recently, the invaders considered relatively safe. These routes are vital for supplying the Russian forces that are sustaining offensives toward Pokrovsk, Chasiv Yar, and other hotspots in Donetsk. Therefore, if the defenders have really managed to establish control over these routes, the cost of transporting ammunition, fuel, and reinforcements to the front will increase significantly for the invaders. The statement also emphasizes that any military target moving along the roads around Donetsk will be destroyed, which is only possible thanks to the degradation of the Russian air defense system that we've seen in recent months, where they have been hunted by attack drones without respite or mercy. Now we are beginning to see the real effects on the battlefield. In the video, we see high-quality footage obtained by drones flying over the Donbass Arena Stadium and the center of the city of Donetsk. The quality of the footage is high, which suggests that it was obtained by upgraded attack drones or fixed-wing systems with resistance to electronic warfare, since they managed to transmit that high-quality footage to their operator. The fact that the drones are reaching the deep operational rear implies significant improvements in range, endurance, resistance to electronic warfare, and communications. The goal in releasing this video is not to alert the invaders about what's coming, but to erode Russian morale and to force changes in convoy routes, making them use more escorts, move at night, or travel in smaller, more discreet groups, which in turn will create more opportunities to exploit gaps in air defenses within the occupied territory. In a significant breakthrough, greater integration on the battlefield, the 1st Azov Corps and the 7th Rapid Response Corps of the Air Assault Forces conducted their first command post exercises. These joint exercises were carried out with the support of the United States Security Assistance Group in Ukraine. The objective of these exercises was the synchronization of operations in adjacent sectors of the front. The staff officers of both elite formations improved joint planning, conducted combat simulations, and practiced NATO standard procedures, including the military decision-making process and intelligence preparation of the battlefield. Emphasis was placed on creating an integrated defensive system that includes reconnaissance, supporting fire, and the construction of engineering obstacles to prevent any enemy advance. At the boundaries between both corps, which are areas where Ivan always tries to cause trouble, since the responsibility for defense is not clearly defined between adjacent units. These exercises demonstrate the emphasis that commanders place on professional development and on leveraging Allied experience to strengthen the quality of command systems, since by coordinating planning and execution between combat experienced units that operate side by side, the defenders can evolve faster than the enemy, thus strengthening their overall defensive posture. I know it's less exciting than seeing turrets flying to infinity and beyond, but this is very relevant. To conclude, the sun and warmth are returning to Ukraine, and some soldiers can also return home, where they receive the best welcome any defender could wish for. That's why it's worth continuing to fight. Hello, friends. The crew of a Ukrainian Yak-52 training plane, which looks like it came straight out of a World War II movie, shows us how they spend their days intercepting Shahed attack drones and Orlan reconnaissance drones over the Odessa Oblast in southern Ukraine. To accomplish their mission, they have to work as a team by getting close to the target, at which point the passenger uses an M4 rifle to shoot down the intruders. This mission is very dangerous because if the Shahed operator sees them approaching, he can make his Vulture attack them, or even worse, explode, destroying the defender. A couple of Yak-52s have already been shot down by these tactics from Ivan, so the Ukrainian pilots must act with great caution to successfully accomplish their objective. Now, if the invaders claim they have air superiority, how can these museum pieces not only keep flying, but also keep sending their nice reconnaissance drones straight to the scrap heap? A Ukrainian loitering munition bulava, which is the Ukrainian copy of the Lancet, identifies and attacks a TOS-1 heavy flamethrower system. The impact causes the accidental launch of one of its thermobaric rockets, one of which hits and destroys the logistics vehicle that was accompanying it, which was also surrounded by artillery orcs. Get 2 vehicles for the price of 1. Now that's an efficient use of military resources. In this footage, we see how a Russian long-range multi-purpose drone, Gerbera, is launched against a mobile Ukrainian air defense group. But, luckily for the Ukrainians, the explosive charge did not detonate. Although the Horde's Vulture carries a relatively small warhead, only 5 kilograms, a successful hit would likely have ruined the day for the anti-aircraft gunners, since the impact was very close to the vehicle. Recently, multiple incidents have been recorded in which the invaders launched their long-range Shahed and Joran drones against Ukrainian mobile air defense groups. But now it seems that they are also using the Gerberas, which are more economical, to clear the way for their long-range cousins. The invaders are debuting the new season of anti-drone protections on their T-90M tanks, which they have called, in a very poetic way I must say, dandelion bars, which are made up of rigid steel cables that have been unrolled and then welded onto a large metal structure. So it doesn't look so cheap. Ivan has also installed multiple rows of ERA contact reactive armor blocks mounted on chains, with the goal of protecting the vulnerable joints between the turret and the hull, while still allowing the main weapon to rotate. Honestly, it makes sense. The dandelions are lightweight and cover an important section of the perimeter, while not being as heavy as full-plate armor. The contact armor also makes sense, since it can deflect the blast of the Mosquito's anti-tank warheads. We'll need to see how the contraption performs to judge the armor, though Ivan seems confident in it. The Mosquito drones of Ukraine's 225th Assault Regiment have been very busy, neutralizing the assaults of mixed assault groups from the Horde, which includes squads of motorcyclists supported by Ural trucks, carrying a large amount of supplies. The idea seems to be that if the motorcyclists manage to clear a path for the truck, the supplies they carry will allow the forward positions to be sustained for at least a week. It sounds good in theory. Too bad that the defenders countered this theory with a dense swarm of mosquitoes, which gradually thinned out the column until the few orcs who managed to reach a building were neutralized. If Ivan keeps attacking like this, meeting the monthly quota of 50,000 demilitarized invaders won't be a problem at all. According to Technological Firepoint, the company that developed the successful Flamingo cruise missile is making progress with an air-launched variant of its FP-9 ballistic missile, which is launched from the ground. It has a range of 855 kilometers and carries an 800-kilogram warhead, which is expected to undergo its first combat tests in the coming months. If the company manages to develop an air-launched version, it will be able to significantly increase its range as well as achieve even greater speed. The altitude and speed of the carrier aircraft significantly improve its chances of penetrating the advanced air defenses of important targets, allowing precise strikes against high-value objectives deep within the Horde's territory, such as air bases, production facilities, and energy infrastructure. The only limitation is that, due to its size, the only aircraft capable of carrying and launching the future FP-9 would be the Su-24 Fencer, whose fleet faces operational limitations due to a lack of spare parts. Solving one problem at a time. Russia continues to use North Korean troops in its war against Ukraine. In this footage, we see a group of North Koreans leaving Moscow's Sheremetyevo International Airport and boarding Aero Express Company buses around April 16th. Apparently, new troops are arriving to reinforce the Horde's war effort. Since late 2024, Pyongyang has sent approximately 11,000 soldiers to work as artillerymen, carry out reconnaissance missions, and conduct support operations for Russian offensives. Apparently, regular rotations are taking place through which thousands of North Koreans have already returned home with combat experience, while new groups replace them. This process illustrates two strategic realities. First, the chronic labor shortage in Russia, which is now being filled by foreign recruits, and second, North Korea's willingness to exchange soldiers for economic aid, food, energy, and advanced military technology. For Kim Jong-un's regime, the Ukrainian front has become a training ground under live fire. For Moscow, it allows access to a disposable force multiplier. On the naval front, the Alpha Special Operations Center of the Security Service of Ukraine launched its drones to attack 3 Russian Navy warships in Crimea. These would be the landing ships Yamal and Azov, along with a third unidentified vessel. The operation also targeted a Grachanok-class patrol boat, specialized in countering combat diver teams, a MISM-1 radar station, the antenna complex of the Dolphin communication system, and fuel storage tanks at the Yukstorsyn oil depot. These attacks further weaken the Russian Black Sea Fleet and its ability to conduct amphibious operations or sustain logistical support for its forces on the peninsula. The landing ships in particular represent key assets for transporting troops and equipment, capabilities that are being systematically degraded. Ukrainian drone attacks in Crimea have plunged the Russian Navy into a state of widespread panic, since the Russian diesel-electric submarines, stationed at the Kronstadt naval base near St. Petersburg, are being equipped with improvised defense systems. Images reveal that the Mosaisk and Dimitrov submarines have been equipped with armored metal structures over their sails to protect the delicate antennas and periscopes, as well as heavy 12.7mm machine guns and spotlights. Floating barriers have also been deployed in the port to block incursions by naval drones such as the Magura or Sea Baby. Hello friends. Yesterday I informed you about the new attack on the Sevastopol naval base in which a Potlio TK-1 radar station was destroyed. And the Russian landing ships were damaged, which surprisingly were still anchored in the bay despite the constant attacks by Ukrainian forces. Unfortunately, the video is degraded for operational security reasons. but we can still see some invaders standing on the bridge of the Yamal, watching as the night falls upon them. That's what you call having front row seats to the fireworks show. They could have used the same evacuation maneuver as this Z infantry guy. They say it's better to hear he ran away than was demilitarized here. Not like this pair, who apparently had much less situational awareness than their other two comrades. The defenders also released footage of the destruction of an AN-26 cargo plane that was hit at the root of its left wing and was ready to take off at the Kacha airfield on the Crimean Peninsula. This happened last December. In the same raid, an acquisition radar for S-300 and S-400 anti-aircraft batteries, housed in a protective capsule, and a component of the advanced Naval early warning radar system were also disabled. The Ukrainian Special Unit Primary, or Phantoms, carried out the attacks, successfully evading Russian air defenses. The destroyed transport plane was carrying spare parts for the 318th Independent Mixed Aviation Regiment, which operates AN-26 BE-12 aircraft and K-27 helicopters at the base, so it was ordered to be intercepted. In this footage, we see a pair of FP-1 strategic strike drones from the Ukrainian company Firepoint, operating deep in Russia's Samara region, which is about 1,000 kilometers from the border. Remarkably, the raiders perform evasive maneuvers at low altitude as they near their target. They are now in contact with their operators, a significant change from just weeks ago when they made straight-line terminal attacks, which made them easier targets. The oil sanctions front is entering a new phase, since the Russians managed to put out the fire at the Tuapse refinery on the morning of April 16th, which of course triggered a new visit from an even larger swarm of Ukrainian mosquitoes, which, according to what we see in the video, literally devastated the complex, causing even bigger fires at the facilities. As a reference point, here we have a photograph of the facilities during the day versus how they looked last night. All that's left is for them to add speakers to those drones and play Ride of the Valkyries before attacking. That would be pretty epic. In the air war, a Ukrainian Air Force Su-27 fighter bomber carried out a precision airstrike with GBU-62 JDAM-ER guided bombs, supplied by the United States against Russian infantry positions in abandoned buildings in Donetsk or Sevastopol. This village, located north of the contested city of Pokrovsk, remains a critical point in the Horde's offensive. In that sector, where they have repeatedly tried to advance, launching assaults near Donetsk, Belitsk, and surrounding settlements to put pressure on Ukrainian defenses and logistical routes. The defenders' air forces are constantly operating on this front, inflicting casualties through constant bombardment of key positions held by the invaders, such as this agricultural building, where they had set up logistical operations near the front. On the ground, on April 18, operators from the 414th Magyar Birds Brigade, working in coordination with the 412th Nemesis Brigade, carried out a precision strike against a Russian heavy flamethrower system, TUS-1A, on the Zaporizhia front. In the footage, we see how a reconnaissance drone begins to track the movement of the vehicle, which was changing position, accompanied by at least 3 additional transport vehicles. Once the movement stops, an attack drone is launched to eliminate the threat, hitting it directly on its side, which causes the secondary explosion of the munitions, one of which goes through the command vehicle that was parked in front. One more munition is launched, but the crew manages to control the fire, after which they carry out a strategic withdrawal from the position.
Pero los defensores no dejarían.
It wasn't that easy, so they send more attackers to finish off the visitor. After multiple hits, they manage to stop the vehicle and then make it go into party mode, creating a remarkable show of lights and flames, which I know all of you will enjoy. the mission warranted a comment from Commander Robert Magyar Brovdi, who highlighted the effective teamwork between the two brigades to track and neutralize a high-value target, despite the invaders' attempts to escape with it after it was damaged. But it's not the only demilitarization of multiple rocket launchers, since the Signum Battalion scored on April 17 by neutralizing 3 Russian BM-21 Grad multiple rocket launcher systems and a tank in the direction of Lyman. This front remains one of the most active axes, characterized by intense positional fighting and repeated attempts by the invaders to advance through the forests that cover the sector. For this reason, drone operators systematically target high-value objectives, such as artillery, logistics, and armored vehicles, to neutralize the fire support that the Z infantry has in that sector. President Zelensky has once again confirmed that Ukraine wants to use part of the 90 billion euros from the European aid package to expand its combat aviation fleet with Swedish Saab 39 Gripen fighter jets. As further confirmation, he also reported that the training
Pilotos en el Gripen comenzará a la brevedad, y se prevé que la
for the first fighter jets will take place this very year, which will probably be the Charlie Delta versions that Sweden is decommissioning. The Gripen, known for its multi-role versatility, its ability to operate from short runways or roads, and its low maintenance costs, represents a significant strategic upgrade for the Ukrainian Air Force. Sweden has committed to providing significant bilateral aid, including 4 billion euros for 2026, as well as implementing a comprehensive maintenance program within Ukraine. Technology transfer to facilitate local production of aircraft components and integration of advanced weaponry, like the Meteor missiles, which would finally give defenders the air-to-air range they need to take out Su-34 fullbacks, which launch glide bombs against frontline positions. Finally, it seems that some residents of the Z Federation have realized, a bit late, that they live in a dictatorship that censors social networks and where people are sent to jail for complaining.
Al final hace un llamado a no tener miedo ni a manifestarse para detener esta locura, pero parece que le cortan el video. ¡Qué loco!, ¿no?
Hello, friends. A couple of invaders are getting ready to use ammunition sent by North Korea as part of the brotherhood between dictators. But well, it seems that the Allies' ammunition turned out to be a bit defective. And to think Donald Trump is afraid of the Russians,
La pintoresca ciudad costera de Tuapse,
enjoying the benefits of joining the Mordorite Federation. And thanks to the fact that the city's refinery is still burning fiercely, I think we can confidently say that this town looks more and more like Mordor from The Lord of the Rings every day. Now let's get to the important part. Who can guess who will be Gollum? On the front lines, drone battles keep evolving, and in this case, we see how a Ukrainian Sting interceptor intercepts a Z-type Gerbera reconnaissance drone. The operators of the anti-aircraft artillery regiment were the ones responsible. They maneuvered their Sting to hit the intruder's propeller, causing it to fall to the ground after losing propulsion. At that moment, the Horde was launching a massive attack, so the defenders needed to preserve their interceptor to try to neutralize at least one more of Ivan's drones. It seems they did get that opportunity. Continuing on the unmanned aerial combat front, for the first time in the world, a Mosquito interceptor from the Unmanned Systems Forces was launched from a naval drone equipped with a special airtight container, after which it managed to maneuver and shoot down a Shahed drone. In the footage, you can see that the Magura was carrying a remotely controlled weapon station, as well as 4 containers for Sting interceptors. This drone carrier belongs to the 412th Nemesis Brigade. It represents a new level of integration between unmanned naval and aerial capabilities, which expands air defense options, and it creates an additional layer of protection for Ukrainian cities. Since Russian raiders can be intercepted at sea before they reach land, where they could cause damage. Combat evolves day by day. On the southern front, a reconnaissance drone discovered the position of a group of attack drone operators from the horde. The cameras followed the operator until he entered the position, which is very well camouflaged. With the coordinates clearly set, the Ukrainian operators requested the express delivery of a pair of precision hammer baguettes, which were sent by a MiG-29 and proceeded to neutralize the invaders' nest. This was duly confirmed by an inspection visit from another observation drone, which found the roof of the position completely destroyed. Curiously, they were unable to find the occupants. I wonder where they could have gone. Let's stay in the air. In this footage, operators from the XXK2 Unmanned Systems Brigade have begun successfully carrying out a series of attacks against Russian logistical and transportation assets, using the new Z-type loitering munition at distances of up to 67 kilometers from the front. The footage released by the unit shows multiple direct hits on trucks, off-road vehicles, motorcycles, and logistical facilities in occupied territory. The Z loitering munition is a compact electric-powered system inspired by the Horde's Shahed, but significantly smaller and more precise. And it has been demonstrating remarkable effectiveness thanks to its AI-assisted autonomous tracking system, which allows for precise attacks against both moving and stationary targets, deep in Ivan's rear areas. Developed and manufactured locally, the first units have been delivered to units such as the 12th SOV Brigade in 2025 and represent a significant advancement in low-cost loitering munitions, since it offers a range of over 50 kilometers with a moderately sized warhead but optimized to disable vehicles. It also reduces the operator's workload due to its automated control functions, which allow it to track its target without human intervention in the terminal phase of the attack. Every day we see something new that the defenders bring to the front, all so that Ivan doesn't have time to get bored. On the electronic warfare front, a Russian aeroballistic missile falls. The 47 M2 Kinzhal went off course and crashed harmlessly in a wooded area after being jammed by the Lima Strategic Electronic Warfare System. In the footage, we see how the hypersonic missile falls harmlessly to the ground thanks to the combined action of spoofing and jamming by the Lima system, which simultaneously deceives and interferes with the missile's navigation systems to divert it from its trajectory. Developed by Cascade Systems, the Lima Electronic Warfare Complex was initially created in 2022 to counter Shahed drones, but it has evolved and proven to be highly effective against Russia's most advanced weapons. According to the manufacturer, the Lima complex has neutralized a total of 58 Kinzhal missiles since its deployment, including 26 in just the first quarter of 2026. In the same period, it also diverted 33 cruise missiles and more than 10,000 unmanned aerial vehicles, achieving an interference effectiveness of over 98% in protected areas. An operational unit reported having successfully diverted 58 out of 59 Kinzhal missiles, which were supposedly unstoppable, but now fall in empty fields or wooded areas. This enables protection of critical infrastructure and saving lives without relying solely on costly, limited interceptor missiles like the Patriot. A smart defense will always be more effective. On the strategic strike front, the units of the Special Operations Forces. A series of precision attacks with FP-1 and FP-2 drones against logistics facilities, ammunition depots, repair bases, and supply points of Russian forces at key targets. Within Donetsk Oblast, near Makedonivka, Nikolske, and Markovo, as well as in Zaporizhia, Oblast in the areas of Amitka and Terpinia. Thermal and night vision camera footage confirms direct hits that cause secondary explosions and fires, destroying or severely damaging depots and the logistical support infrastructure of the invading horde. These deep strike operations aim to disrupt Russia's ability to sustain its frontline troops by eliminating ammunition, fuel, and repair equipment located between 50 and 120 kilometers behind the front. The production and mass deployment of Ukrainian unmanned systems continues to escalate, allowing for an increase in attacks in the deep rear of the invaders. That's what you call shaping the battlefield. To finish on a positive note, the British singer Dua Lipa helped the 1st Independent Medical Battalion of Ukraine acquire a van. The vehicle will be used for evacuations and operational tasks in the combat zone. The funds were raised at a charity event organized by Service 95, a platform founded by the singer, which transferred the resources to Driving Ukraine, a volunteer organization that adapts vehicles for medical and combat unit personnel. Unfortunately, we can't play a song due to copyright reasons, but you can imagine it playing in the background. Thank you, Dua Lipa, and thank you to everyone who made this possible. Hello, friends. We start with a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone that detects the presence of a Tornado multiple rocket system at a road intersection. Apparently, it is returning from a fire mission, since its crew is hiding it in a tree line, most likely the location of its base of operations. Once the coordinates are set, the operators request an urgent delivery of a HIMARS precision rocket, which turns the quiet corner of the Ukrainian steppe into an even quieter place, now that the invaders are all taking a well-deserved eternal nap. Another happy customer gets their last dose of tungsten berries. This is crazy because the defenders have now transformed a light turboprop Antonov An-28 aircraft into an airborne drone interceptor platform armed to the teeth. If they had already mounted a 6-barrel Dillon Arrow M1 3-4D Gatling machine gun on the left door, now they've installed wing-mounted interceptors capable of shooting down Shahed attack drones in mid-flight. In the video, we see that the An-28 is now equipped with special mounts on the wings, on which the interceptors are carried and launched, and there are 2 types of them. The first is the Ukrainian-made P-1 Sun, and the second is the Merov's AS-3 Surveyor anti-drone system. Mounting these interceptors on an aircraft instead of launching them from the ground gives the system an altitude advantage and allows for longer loiter time over a patrol area, and the ability to head toward a threat using the sensors and crew of the mothership before launch, since it is equipped with a reconnaissance turret that has a high-resolution thermal camera, allowing for highly accurate target identification. The An-28 is a light general-purpose turboprop aircraft from the Soviet era, originally designed for short-field operations in remote areas. Clearly, it's not a fighter jet, nor was it designed to intercept anything, and that's what makes its conversion so significant, since the defenders aren't waiting for platforms specifically designed for this purpose. They're making use of what they have at hand, radically modifying it, and then testing them in real combat. Before receiving the interceptors, these planes had already accumulated hundreds of shootdowns. Now they'll surely make those numbers rise even faster. Moving on to the air war, a technician from Ukraine's 38th Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment shoots down a Russian cruise missile using a French-made portable air defense system, the Mistral. The units that use them claim it has a success rate between 93 and 96%, and its operators describe it as simple, reliable, and effective. France and Norway supplied hundreds of missiles and launchers of this system starting in 2022, with additional deliveries of new missile stocks. Speaking of the French, the government in Paris received a proposal for an aircraft exchange with Greece, which could provide the Ukrainian Air Force with up to 43 fighter jets, Mirage 2000 of which 24 are Mirage 2005, Mark II, modernized and ready for combat, and another 19 are older EGM models or already decommissioned, as well as spare parts and support equipment. In exchange, Greece would receive the same number of Dassault Rafale fighters at a lower cost. President Emmanuel Macron is expected to present the offer, which is supported by Dassault, during his official visit to Athens on April 24 and 25, coinciding with the renewal of the Strategic Defense Alliance between Greece and France. This initiative represents a significant opportunity to expand the operational capacity of the Defender's air defense network, further enhancing their ground attack capabilities, thanks to their ability to operate the entire French arsenal, especially the hammer bombs. A final agreement has not yet been reached, as the Greeks have doubts due to operational, financial, and security considerations in the Aegean. The proposed conditions are that Greece transfers the entire Mirage fleet and its spare parts to France, which will carry out depot maintenance on the units before delivering them to Ukraine. In exchange, Greece acquires an equivalent number of Rafale at a reduced price, which would allow the 2 squadrons of the 114th Fighter Wing of the Hellenic Air Force to make a complete transition to the Rafale. The French can offer better conditions thanks to tax exemptions for the operation, so it would not represent a cost for the French state. And Dassault supports the operation since it wins the contract for the refurbishment of the Mirage 2000 aircraft before delivery to Ukraine. Along with another Rafale order for Greece, this will also bring in maintenance service revenue. The Mirage 2005 are highly compatible with the French Mirage 2000S that are already in service with the Ukrainian Air Force. The availability of additional airframes would allow for increased combat sorties for the suppression of enemy air defenses, precision strikes against ground forces, and the defense of Ukraine's airspace, which is crucial considering that an increase in the number of drones that Ivan will launch against the defenders is expected in the coming months. Additionally, access to the Greek Mirage fleet would give defenders a large supply of spare parts, helping address the maintenance issues that have limited Ukrainian Mirage operations. We'll have to wait and see if Macron can close the deal during his Athens visit. On the logistics front, the Ukrainian armored vehicle manufacturer Ukr Armotech has released footage of the initial tests of its new prototype, tracked armored personnel carrier called Skif. The defenders received more than 1,600 M113 transport vehicles from their allies, of which at least 500 have been lost in combat. However, the troops describe them as reliable armored vehicles, easy to maintain, spacious, and with good mobility, despite their age. Because of this, the Ministry of Defense chose it as a baseline and tasked domestic manufacturers to create something with better protection and firepower, while keeping its off-road capability. The prototype of the Skif has demonstrated great mobility in muddy terrain, steep slopes, and complex off-road conditions during tests, which are typical on Ukrainian battlefields. The vehicle, whose overall structure is similar to that of the M113, features multiple improvements, including perforated side armor panels, and the possibility of using different types of engines, so as not to depend on a single supplier. It can carry 8 equipped soldiers plus 3 crew members, including the driver, commander, and gunner, who have standing level 4 ballistic protection and a floor-resistant to anti-tank mines with up to 6 kilograms of explosive charge. This offers double the protection of the original M113. The armament includes a remotely operated combat module with a 12.7mm or 14.5mm machine gun, plus a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun. The vehicle also comes equipped with communication systems, navigation, situational awareness, electronic warfare, and air conditioning, all of Ukrainian manufacture. The modular design means that the skiff can be adapted for other missions, including command and control vehicles, reconnaissance, mortar carriers, and medical evacuation. It is worth noting that Ukraine continues to consider tracked vehicles necessary, since, although they are heavier, more complex, and more expensive, they are superior for dealing with the mud that characterizes Ukrainian autumns and winters. The system is to be used for the members of the M113 protection units, which would be intended to cover the losses of M113s in the frontline protection units. To conclude, despite the continuous attacks by the Horde's drones, life in Ukrainian communities continues almost normally. As I always say, not all heroes are on the front line. If you're interested in more content on the war in Ukraine, visit our 2 new channels for information in a different format. Be sure to check them out. Remember to visit our Patreon, where for just $1, you'll have access to a large number of uncensored videos and documentaries. Lastly, visit our store, where you can find items inspired by some of Ukraine's most outstanding units. Carry history with you, and with every purchase, you'll be supporting the United 24 program, which directly supports reconstruction programs, civilian aid, and defense. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel.